All right, John, thank you, man, for coming in to share a bit about yourself.
That's too easy, Justin. It's good to be here.
How old are you, man?
I'm turning 28 in a couple of days. 18th of November, that's my birthday.
On
Mark it
Monday?
down. Yep,
Yeah,
that's my birthday.
beautiful, man. What are you doing?
I'm thinking I'll keep it small. I'm not really a party man, so I was gonna invite a couple of the old boys, like the old fucking long-term friends. We're gonna go to the Yarra Bend River and find a nice high point, like a top of the hill, nice and small. Just hang out with the boys, and you know,
Yeah,
pretty much a normal day for me. But just instead of being on my ones,
yeah,
just hang out with a few people that I know.
that's good, bro.
Nice and small.
Yeah, make sure you let everyone know so they can get ready and
Yeah,
prepared.
yeah. I will. I'll pop in down the street on Monday
Yeah,
when everyone's grabbing their feed. I'll come and say hi.
yeah, that's it. Awesome, bro. Well, you have a happy birthday on Monday,
Thank
man.
you, Justin, bro.
Where did you grow up, man?
So I grew up in a little village called Risley. It's in back in England. It's farm fields as far as the eye could see, and it's not as much of the natural land as we got here in Australia, but there's enough woods, enough fields to keep me entertained when I was a kid.
Yeah,
So,
right. So your family's like they're farmers, or
well, yeah, my father came from up north, so he'd be, his father and his father would have done the mining and the metal work, but my mother was from the south, and they settled together somewhere in the southeast.
yeah,
It's just
right from two opposite ends
yeah,
they met.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
right.
yeah, they met. I think me father had already had one generation of children, and he was living out of a caravan. He had lost his first wife, and I think he met me mother during a Christian caravan rally.
Oh wow.
You know those?
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
heard of that. No.
yeah. So like it'd be just it's called CCF or something. It's uh, like in the Christian Caravan and Camping Club.
So it's just a massive convoy of caravans that
Well,
of
like they'd meet
Christians.
up like once or twice a year in
Yeah,
different locations. You know, one day it'd be by the beach. Another time it'd be inland amongst like forests and trees.
yeah.
And they met, um, and like 2 years after they met, they had me and my sister 1 year apart from one another. And yeah, my father was quite elderly when he had me, so he was about 60 odd.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah. He was
And how
quite.
old's your mum? Or how old
Um,
was your mum when?
she would have been like early mid 40s, so she was
Wow,
quite old for a mother as well.
wow.
But she's still around. We keep in touch. I'd let her know what I'm doing. You
Yeah,
know, me me life here, and uh, how I'm growing and putting down some roots.
yeah,
And uh, can always feel me father's um, voice whenever I'm doing something that, something good or something he'd disapprove of. I can always feel him. You
yeah.
know, uh,
So he's passed, has he?
he passed in 2017.
Okay.
This was a year after I came to Australia.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he was already on the way out for a long time. I knew this from a very early age,
Yeah.
so it was no surprise.
So
Like
how old would he have been?
he'd be in his he'd be in his 90s, or like uh, late 90s,
Wow.
early, not early 90s, not mid
So
or eight.
he lived a decent life.
He lived a full life, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool, man. So you moved down here in 2016 then, is that
yeah.
right?
I
So
uh,
you're always in Ireland?
no, no, I was in England.
England,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So you're in England, what, for half of your life, or?
Well, up until so I left home at 16, and I went to try out with the Merchant Navy. I didn't get that far into it because it had um, it got a standard of maths in the engineering that I had a decent crack at, but I didn't quite make it into the final stages. So um, I did a year of bartending, and I came out to Australia when I was 19.
Mm.
And I thought I was all grown up then. So
Wow.
I still would have been like a baby. Didn't even have a full beard. And
Yeah.
and you know uh, I met a special woman who I came back for. Ultimately, uh, she's not with us anymore, but in another way, she's always with us. In you know, yeah,
So, do you want to share a bit about that? Like,
yeah.
so you came to Melbourne for this woman, or?
When I came to Melbourne just as a break from me farming
Yeah.
because I was doing the old oranges and citrus up in Mildura.
Okay. Yeah.
It's lovely, lovely landscape. That was the. If you don't mind the flies, then it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and you
Yeah.
see uh, all of God's marvelous creation up
Yeah.
there. You see in the sand dunes lightning storms that were just you can see them uh, as far as the eye goes to the horizon. Just
Wow.
lightning hitting the sand sporadically,
Wow.
and you got a wild swarm of bees I passed when I was going home once, and you got the old muddy river. In,
Yeah. So you're in Mildura
yeah, and
farming,
and
doing citrus.
well, I made I had a good job packing almonds into containers,
Oh yeah.
and I didn't keep it forever, but I was just filling in for
Yeah.
the lack of staff. They were doing prunes and almonds, and I made enough in a couple of weeks that I thought if I stay here, then I'm going to lose this. So I thought I'll come to Melbourne,
Mm.
and expand, uh, put down some roots and make some connections. And I met friends for life that I'm still in touch with now. That
Yeah.
these are the guys I'm going to meet up with for my birthday in a couple of days. Some of
Yeah.
the first people I met when I came to Melbourne.
So when did you move from England to So you went from England to Mildura?
I went from England to I landed up in Surfers Paradise, and we had a trek around the East Coast. When my father passed in 2017, I went back preemptively before he passed away, but just catch up with the family and that. And that um, I decided that I wanted to continue my journey out here in Melbourne, and I had all these grand plans and designs about what I was going to do, living with Zev and having a life with her, and so it didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to. But I met a lot of people and I matured a great deal. Say it'd be something of a coming of age story. I sort of learned a little bit about uh, meeting people halfway, and
Mm.
like a genuinely putting um, putting the needs of my friends, uh, first.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of maturity that I thought I was a fully grown man at 19. What did I know?
Mm.
I had a lot of growing up to do.
And your partner's name? What did you say? Sev?
Well, her Christian name is Deborah, but she used to call herself Zev, which would be Zev.
Yeah.
But like her Christian name would always be Deborah.
Yeah. And so you two were together?
Um, we were we were we were like a best mates, like for a year or so. We'd spend all of our time together. Um, uh, it never felt uh, like a Hollywood romance or anything. It was more like a deep friendship where I didn't feel like she was looking at me as um, just a physical body, but uh, that we were living for uh,
Connected more spiritually, sort of thing. Yeah.
like very much so. You know, we'd go to the park and we'd go to these eye gazing sessions where we just like look into each other's eyes for a bit
Oh
and
yeah,
like just it sounds corny, but these were, you know, this is the closest I'd ever gotten to someone emotionally.
that's beautiful, man.
And you know that she's always with me. You know, looking down from heaven. You know, she's always always there for me when I'm flipping out and getting angry and I need to calm down,
Mm.
or you know, or when I do something that you know, when I do something good, you know, doing right by her. You
Yeah,
know, I can always feel it, man.
and she's passed away. How did that happen?
Yeah, unfortunately, in 2022, we were out of touch at the time, um, and I had my own. Uh, you know, I was still a little bit, you know, the way I responded, the way I responded to the breakdown of our friendship was still a little bit childish. You know, I was still thinking about myself, and it took for her to she actually took her own life, uh, and it was a bit of a, you know, so another wake up call for me. You know, it wasn't supposed to be about me. You know, it was uh, uh, about how, you know, how much I cared about her, how much I care still.
Mm.
And for a long time, I was very angry and bitter, and I'd be the crazy guy you saw mumbling down the street. You know, I'd just collapse onto my knees and
Mm.
start crying, or you flip out at some random stranger. And I had to, I had to really, um, I had to really do a lot of growing up. You know, felt like sometimes like the world was taunting me, like you know, like the story of
Mm.
the story of what's his name, where um, you know, the like a woman that Jesus helps, Mary Magdalene, where she's like a where she thinks like a you know, she's so confronted by her demons that she doesn't trust anyone. I
Mm.
felt like that. I felt like everyone was taunting me, like everyone was a leering face, and I was so angry, bro. I was so angry, and uh, I was down sleeping in sleeping in a stairwell down in St Kilda. Um, I luckily had the Sacred Heart mission down there. The I don't know if you heard of them. The Sacred Heart have they have an op shop and a sort of a community meal. Uh, it's like a hub on Grey Street, and they pulled through for me a lot. And the people there,
So they got you out of that dark place, pretty much.
like it wasn't long before I wasn't sleeping in that dingy stairwell anymore. I was found an empty house and started socializing a bit and pulling myself out of. I was a long way from peaceful, uh, a long way from peaceful, but I wasn't taking it out on myself every day anymore. I was starting to get better.
Yeah.
It was just after that point in time that I uh, I started to build me place on the river,
Mm.
and up until that point, it had just been a ramshack tarp and sticks. And when I went back to the place, it was waterlogged, filled with roaches and spiders. So I just ripped it all down, ripped all the tarp and sticks down, um, cleaned it all up. Mind, I'd never leave any rubbish at the river. Um, and I, on the same site that the old ramshackle tarp used to be, I actually built a little cabin for myself. You know, I keep it on the DL, so don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
But that's the place where I feel most in touch with the Holy Spirit, other than sitting here with you all at the church, listening to a sermon. Other than that, being in that little spot in nature, being surrounded by lizards and possums and the little finches, you know, the little
Yeah.
birds. I have they all come and say hi, and they're so friendly. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't believe, like
Oh, that's so cool, man.
when you stay still in nature for a few hours, all the birds and whatnot, they come and say hi to you. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
how are you doing?
Well, you've come a long way, man. It's like that was only what
I
2 years ago when you
yeah,
lost your.
it's an understatement how much things have changed for me since then. Like a
Yeah.
massive understatement. I wasn't eating back then. I wasn't sleeping, and I was pretty much. I used to just chain smoke through every day. That's how I got to sleep. That's how I got through the day.
Mm,
Chain smoking cigarettes, which I don't do anymore.
yeah.
But uh, like since then, I'm sleeping well. I'm eating well. I feel like I've got my mojo back.
Yeah.
I'm still working on my anger issues. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm there yet, but I've, I've definitely got better at, you know, I don't just see everyone leering at me like some face making fun of me anymore. It's more like I can talk myself down from that. Not even talk myself down. It's hard to explain. It's
Mm,
because it's like it's it's in a way it's a submission,
mm,
but the actual confidence and courage that it gives me
the
to
reward.
yeah
Yeah.
is actually doesn't feel like a submission at all.
Yeah.
It only feels like a submission in that moment
Yeah.
when I'm so angry
Yeah,
and
bro.
so thinking I'm right, everyone else is wrong. Like fucking, um, um, and ultimately it took for me to hit the wall to really realize that. It took for me to be so out of touch, you know, screaming my head off
Mm.
that I had no choice. And so, every time it happens, I look back and I go, instead of letting it get that bad,
Mm.
you know, I step down, in that moment, and
Yeah, it's like trying, anger can control you, get a hold of you, but you
yeah,
get a handle on yourself and you're free. I used to be a very angry person too, man.
yeah,
So I've been through similar situations, but yeah, the reward of just being humble and not getting yourself so worked up
yeah,
is beautiful, man.
and like not being confused by like a false sense of justice that isn't actually it's not doing anyone any good. It's just defending my own pride,
Yeah,
and then I end up looking like an idiot anyway because
yeah,
I've flipped out at someone that didn't, so
yeah.
was just trying to enjoy their day.
I understand, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then I feel bad for that. So it's like coming here and listening to Anthony do the sermon and having a coffee with you guys. It's it really helps. It
that's good to
makes
hear,
me
man.
feel forgiven that I have a chance.
Yeah,
That um, I'm not irredeemable.
yeah,
I've got a chance. That feels
yeah.
good.
That's so good. So you mentioned you had a sister before. You just got the one sister.
Yeah, I've got me little sister by blood, and um, she's off the our same mother who's still alive.
Yeah,
Um, but I've also got my two older half sisters who had. This was going back to when my father was in
yeah.
his 20s. So they're all these siblings are in their 50s now.
Wow.
It's a funny old family.
So you're older than your sister.
I'm older than my little sister,
Yeah, yeah,
but all my other siblings are in their 50s,
yeah.
and I'm only turning 28.
And you still got contact with them?
Yeah, yeah, I keep in touch with them, give them updates.
Where are they staying? Are they still in England or?
Yeah, they're up in England.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you're
uh,
the only one here?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But this is where this is where I'm meant to be. I know that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did you go to school?
Went to school. It wouldn't have been far from. So back where I grew up, we had a three-tier schooling system. It wasn't just primary and upper. We had the primary, middle school, and upper school.
All right.
And the first two schools were in my village, and
Yeah.
then it was just one village over.
Yeah.
for upper school. Um, and
And how far did you go? So what's so
well, me lower schools, me lower school and middle school, I could walk to. They were very old fashioned. You know, we used to have the the hymns that we used to sing together. It used to be on an old projector with um, uh, transparent piece of plastic with the words printed on, like really old fashioned.
yeah, right.
And then when we got into upper school, old Sharnbrook, we get there by bus, and it was a bit more modern. You know,
So it was pretty much like Christian based schools.
the upper school was secular, but the Margaret Beaufort, the middle school and the lower school were both Christian. Yeah.
Yeah. So how
Um,
many years, like grades, are in each?
so about four in each: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
So 12 years.
Yeah.
And I left school when I was 16 and went to Merchant Navy College.
Okay.
You know, rather than stay on for the sixth form, I just thought, it's time for me to get a wiggle on. You know, time for me
Yeah.
to start living my life.
Yeah. Right. Um. So have you worked in Melbourne?
Yeah, like I do a little bit of cleaning and painting. Sometimes, you know, I do acrylic paints on an empty piece of wall.
Yeah.
Usually, I fund that myself, though. That's like just a project,
Yeah.
something that I only do when when I feel inspired. But my main gig is cleaning. I tell you what, you get me on a kitchen or a dirty room, and I'll make it look brand new. It's funny because when I was a kid, I despised cleaning. It was the one thing I'd do anything to get out of.
Yeah.
You name it, anything to get out of cleaning. But these days, it's like I go hanging out with someone at their house. If I see a pile of dirty dishes, give me half an hour and it's clean.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
Bit of OCD trying to make sure everything's clean. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I think we all struggle with that. So no children? No children?
No. It's hard for me to think at this stage in my life. It's hard for me to think about uh, ever settling down with another woman.
Yeah.
But I thinking about God's plan for me, and uh, and uh, I'm not saying that I'm going to be uh, by myself forever. But for the time being, it's at least whilst I get my shit together, pardon my French, sorry.
No, you're all right.
Whilst I get my business together, uh, whilst I'm working on myself to get to a I know that working through my emotional issues isn't an overnight job. It's a very long series of maintenance
Mm.
in a way. It's not something that I can just put a band-aid on. It's a big one.
So what was your upbringing like? Did you have a good upbringing? Was there any issues?
Yeah, my parents, like I told you, quite old, very old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Uh, definitely contrast to what a child might have grown up in this day and age.
Bit strict.
Yeah, well, me father and me mother was loose in some ways, but in other ways it was like, I'd get a hiding.
Yeah.
So give and take in a way.
Yeah.
I was drinking a glass of wine at the table when I was like 6, but uh, there are things that if I was rude, my father would give me quite a hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's no sob story. Like I had a very gentle,
just a bit of discipline.
A nice upbringing. My parents were always there.
Yeah.
They were retired, so they had all the time in the world for me.
Mm.
my mother used to take me and my sister out to go to the museum and Macca's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my parents had all the time in the world for me. So
Oh, that's good.
I'm not giving anyone a sob story here. This wasn't a tragic
Yeah.
upbringing. No,
Yeah.
it was a good upbringing.
Oh, that's good, man. So living on the streets, have you been living on the streets the whole time you've been in Melbourne?
No, when I um, when I first came here, I was living through hostels mostly, and I got by doing farm work, you know. And when me and Zev's relationship broke down in 2018, and she sort of made it clear that she didn't want me in her life directly anymore. Then I sort of had to find. I found I had to learn to live within my means and to suss out the community and how to eat food and how to look after myself, which took you know took a while.
Mm.
I had in between those years, I had a couple of share housing situations, which worked in some ways, and in other ways, I saw a little bit of exploitation in there. But people were sort of sometimes being made to work against their will,
Mm.
and so I still get involved in those share house situations, but I get involved at with a safe distance now. So I got my cabin to fall back on.
Mm.
Because I noticed when you're living in those share housing situations directly, you're there all the time. It's very easy uh, to let a lot slide, and I saw people being exploited for made to do work when they wasn't what they was meant to
Yeah.
do with their life.
Yeah. Right. So were they forced to work
Well,
to have a place to
yeah,
stay?
yeah, yeah. It'd be
Yeah.
like do this or get kicked out.
Yeah.
And uh, so I learned to I got no problem standing my ground for what's right, but when you're directly involved for that much time, there's a lot that you don't see, a lot that's just you let slide.
Mm.
But so these days I still get involved in those communities, but I get involved at uh, a safe distance,
Yeah.
so I can see clearly
Yeah.
what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Because I've there's a a lot of ways I can see how I could have stepped up more and how I should step up whenever I see something really that's like you know not on
Yeah.
someone being used.
Yeah. Take a step back and just
Yeah,
get a perspective of things.
yeah.
Yeah. So you've basically been on the streets since 2018.
Um, so I have um, so I had a couple of good share housing situations uh, between 2018 and 2021,
Yeah.
um, and some of that time was spent on the streets. Some of it was spent in Fairfield, Northcote,
Yeah.
and in 2021 we found sort of a permanent base of operations uh, where the problems that I'd seen come up before still came up again, but with different people.
Mm.
And it was around that time that I was being staunched out of. I was being staunched out of that place for uh, various reasons. The the guy that was calling the shots didn't see eye to eye.
Mm.
It was around that time that I found myself stumbling around the city again,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, so it was a strange one because I had a place to live, but I wasn't really at home. I didn't feel at home,
Mm.
comfortable and at peace until I built me shack, me cabin.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, oh right, I've got no one standing over me anymore, no one telling me I haven't met their quota. So I actually had time to get my sanity back, get my head back.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
now I still get involved in those communities, but at an arm's length.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what happens when I'm too involved. It's like I get caught up in some nefarious stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love to get involved in the communities, but you know, it got me cabin to go back to at the end of every day.
That's good. Yeah.
And Justin, I'll tell you now, like, how grateful I am. Like, you know, we had this conversation earlier, but I'll just say it now for the interview.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I haven't got that place forever, but every morning I wake up there and every night I go to sleep there, I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
To God, to all the animals that keep me company there, and to all the, you know, the people just living their lives that, you know, without them it wouldn't be possible.
It's beautiful, man. It's
And
good to hear that you're content with
the
where you are.
healing's really started. That's what I got to tell you.
Yeah.
It's like the healing's. It's not just you know, we're not just playing around anymore. It's like there's some actual, really, like, I feel it every day. You know, like there's some real healing actually happening now.
Yeah, well, from what you're telling me, you know, the angry you that you used to be to the person that I see every time I see you,
Yeah,
you're pretty humble, man, and
yeah.
you seem like you're getting your head together and you're in a good place, man.
But like it's easy to hold it together when I've had a lovely feed with you guys and lovely yarn, and it's, you know, it's easy to smile and be happy. But when I'm really losing my senses, that's when I've got to, you know, that's when I've got to try a bit harder, because I still lose my senses sometimes on the street. And I know a lot about harm reduction and about how making things a lot less worse than that they have to be. But I'm not completely where I want to be with that.
Yeah,
I've got a long way to go.
we're on the right track, man.
Yeah.
And so you think the cause of you being on the street is the loss of your partner?
I think that um, in some ways I was not a fully grown man yet.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, I still had a lot of growing up to do, despite how grown up I thought I was. I I wasn't still was a little bit self-centralized. Still didn't really thought I understood, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, being on the street, you know, that was a, you know, it stressed our relationship, but it also taught me a lot about looking after people and being humble. And in many ways, I say I've got a lot to thank for, you know, um, those times where I went desperately hungry, and there's times where I was out of my mind with frustration and anger. I actually made a lot of friends and a lot of connections. So I would definitely not call it the cause of the
Yeah.
breakdown of my
Yeah.
relationship. I say it's actually um, in a way a bit of a happy accident, because it meant I could get off the streets with, you know, I've got my little cabin now by the river, but I still engage. I still come back here to say hi to everyone, and I still go to the Queen Vic market feed,
Yeah.
and and it's like I feel like I've got a life again. Like
Yeah.
I actually got a life. That feels good.
Yeah. Good on you, man.
And like I said, it feels like she's with me. It feels like she's with me every day in the small things and the big things. You know, when I'm losing control of me emotions, or when I'm staying calm. You know, I can feel her there saying, you know, uh, give me the courage and confidence uh, to live my life.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know what God has in store for me the next 10 years, but at least, it feels like there are going to be a next 10 years now.
Mm.
At least,
Mm.
I feel like I'm definitely, my cup is full.
Yeah,
It's nice to have that feeling.
that's good, man. I see good things coming your way for sure. And what do you find that the hardest thing about living on the streets is?
So I say, um, when you're that, when I was that angry and that self-righteous, that my pride would stop me from accepting any form of help, whether it was a blanket,
Mm.
water, food. I wouldn't accept any help. I was like, this is the way it has to be. And then, that ended up with me just being on a
Mm.
concrete surface with to not a lot to hold, uh,
Mm.
other than uh, ciggies and like a you know
So the hardest thing is your own state of mind, pretty
it's
much.
like it felt like it was for a long time. It was impossible for me to accept any help
Yeah,
because I thought
wow.
if I don't engage with anyone, then I don't owe them anything. I was very worried about owing people stuff. Didn't realize that a lot of people just they want to help because they actually want to help, and that was hard for me to even accept.
And so was it the Sacred Heart that played a big role in you
So
turning that
I
around?
got a lot of respect and uh, and admiration for those guys in St Kilda that do
Yeah.
that work, but for the community down there as well, because there's a lot of faces down there that will turn up, every day or every week, and those are all the people that were around me at that time that showed me their strength and gave me a shoulder to lean on, and uh, that was really like that was the crux of when I was the most angry and the most
Hmm.
taking everything out on the world because I'd lost uh, what I had. I hadn't really lost my life. I just lost what what I wanted to uh, what I wanted to do with my life with this woman.
Mm.
But I hadn't lost the gift at all.
Yeah.
Not really.
No,
I just thought I had.
that's right.
Um, and yeah, that was the biggest obstacle for me was uh, not being able to accept anyone's help, not wanting to stand down because I thought it was an act of defeat.
Yeah.
It felt like the last thing I'd ever want to do is roll over and fucking and show my neck to the enemy.
Mm.
And then I realized that it wasn't. If someone had wanted to take me out in that time, they would have been able to do it like that.
Mm.
No one took me out in that time. They only offered me the help I needed.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a lot better than I was, but there's still, if you'd have caught me just last week, I was still a little bit lost in my head, a little bit, not even wanting to accept any help
Mm.
because it felt like I'd owe someone something.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you struggle a little bit with being vulnerable and getting taken advantage of, sort of thing.
Well, these days, not at all. These
Mm.
days, I've got,
Yeah.
uh, I, I don't just get, I don't get, I don't smoke ciggies and joints all the time just to escape.
Mm.
And for a while, that was what I'd do. I'd smoke ciggies and joints uh, just so I didn't have to deal with my problems. And I didn't
Mm.
get rid of my problems. It just desensitized me.
Yeah.
And uh, you know, uh, that held me back for a long time, and it did make me vulnerable. Because you're getting uh, uh, stoned and off your face for so long,
Mm.
you don't feel as physically strong or as mentally strong. So a lot of that was self imposed.
Yeah.
These days, I've almost got me habits down to just needing uh, water and food and sleep, which is the way I want it.
Yeah.
But we're not quite there. But I'm not smoking ciggies at all anymore,
Yeah.
which feels good.
That's
And
so good, man.
it's nice smelling the flowers again and that.
Yeah.
But I'd be lying if I said I was completely uh, if I was completely free of all dependencies. If I said that, I'd be lying.
Yeah.
But I've definitely come a long way. You
One
know,
step at a time,
yeah,
man. Good on you, bro.
yeah, and all these steps help each other. Like a not not getting so angry and guilty that I feel like I need to cover up my emotion. Actually dealing with it, the source of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, then I don't need a substance to change how I'm feeling.
Good on you, man. And so what is pot the only like drug you've tried? Have you been
Yeah,
into any other?
I never had a problem with grog, but I've felt like there've been days where I've drunk too much grog, and then I felt like it's actually taken years of my life away.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is no laughing matter. I'm not an 18-year-old anymore. Um, drinking with my friends. This is actually taxing my life.
Mm.
So you know, my only real issue was ever with uh, pot. But like I told you, I've come a long, long way since then,
Yeah.
and I can see myself in the next few years being just needing uh, my only dependencies being water and fresh air and food, which is the way I want it.
Oh man, that's
Yeah,
so good.
yeah, I'm in for
You'll
sure,
get there, bro.
for sure, bro.
You're gonna make it. Well, have you been in trouble with the police or anything?
No, I generally keep my nose clean. I don't steal. One, uh, one thing about having too much pride is that I never wanted to steal. So
Mm.
that's not something I've ever had an issue with. Like,
Yeah.
I generally keep my nose clean. But as we know, keeping your nose clean and being on the right side of the law and being a good, warm, nice person are two different things.
Yeah.
You can be completely within the law but still be a meanie,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's I'm guilty of that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I've never had an issue there. No.
Yeah. So you were telling me earlier that you're in the middle of creating sort of a game.
Yeah.
So that's your hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love me game making. When I'm doing that, is when I'm the most comfortable and contented, and relaxed that you'll ever see me. That's like
Yeah.
a writer, that they'll find that's when they're writing their book. Artist, a
Yeah.
painter, when they're painting, they're like sunflowers or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, that's when I'm working on my video game.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Do you want
that's
to explain to the viewers like
for
exactly what
sure.
this game
Okay,
is about? Because
yeah.
it's pretty
So
interesting.
this isn't like one of these 3D masterpieces like Fortnite or Call of Duty that you'll see. This isn't. This is like the other end of the spectrum in terms of visual quality. This is like Mario. It's like side scroller stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a one man team on this game, so it's like I can't be expected to pop out the sort of
Yeah.
things that EA would.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is my baby. Been working on it for a year, on and off, and it's supposed to emulate uh, a uh, a random uh, bunch of hills and trees, and I'm trying to emulate every aspect of the world. So trying to have the trees grow at a natural rate, for the hills and the buildings to be random every time you start up the game, and then over a series of days for the trees and the grass to wither out as the sun gets hotter, and the aim is to uh, stockpile water and food underground and survive the solar apocalypse, which is the sun getting hotter and hotter. And then eventually, at some point, it goes down to normal temperature again, and you've got to get out all your seeds and water that you've stockpiled and replant the surface. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
very
it's
interesting, man.
very bare bones. It's 0.59. That's the version I'm giving it at the moment. When it's version 1, so we're about 2/3 of the way there. When I get to version 1, it's supposed to be a complete playable game.
Wow.
Yeah,
And how long you been working on it again?
just a year. Like,
Yeah.
you know, one of the most uh, valuable gifts that one of my friends has given me was a lovely Italian girl from one of these share housing situations called Elenia. She gave me her old PC for my birthday last year, and you know, I didn't have access to a PC for 5 or 6 years. And, a PC is an expensive piece of equipment. You don't just find one on the fly.
Mm.
So I spent 5 or 6 years where I was sort of cold turkey, if you want to put it like that,
Yeah.
off the games. And that for me, it was like I don't know what, I've never been addicted to an opiate, but I imagine coming off video games for the first time in your life is something like similar. I'm not saying it's the same level, but something similar.
Yeah, good,
Like
yeah.
it was difficult.
Yeah.
But I also expanded my horizons, and got back into carpentry, got back into using tools,
Yeah.
having a work shed, having projects. I used to uh, take apart electronic like devices and that, see what was inside them, but mostly just honing my carpentry skills, which ultimately enabled me to build my cabin, which is where I live now.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot to thank for those 5 or 6 years that I didn't have a computer, because now,
Picked up some skills.
oh,
Yeah.
that's an understatement. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to brag, but my cabin is like, it's solid.
Proper.
I've been in there 2 winters. It can be raining for 2 weeks outside,
Yeah.
torrential rain. So that but I'm warm and cozy inside.
Wow, that's so cool, man.
You should see some of the animals down by the river. I've seen a slug like half a foot long, like that was. Have you ever seen a slug
Not that
in
big.
in the rain? If you ever go to the river and when it's raining heavy, like torrential rain,
Yeah.
see how fast the slugs and snails move. They speed along. Like when it's
Yeah.
raining, they're so fast. They're like this.
Wow.
And I've got a lot of insects there, a lot of roaches and spiders and whatnot, but they're generally respectful. And the whole 2 winters that I spent in that cabin, I've only had an insect pop out at me in my bed a couple of times.
They leave you alone otherwise.
They truly, once they know it's your bed, they don't hassle you.
Yeah.
They really, they'll pop out their face and say hi, but they don't jump in bed with you, and
Well, man, it sounds like you're pretty connected with nature, and
I feel, Justin, brother, I feel so blessed every time I'm there. That is when I'm feel like when people talk about the Holy Spirit, they talk about how it feels like your head's on fire. That's what it feels like when I'm down at the cabin,
yeah,
and it's all quiet, and I've got all my animals around me. I couldn't be more grateful. That's why it doesn't faze me too much if I lose that place, because of how much it continuously gives me by being there every day
yeah.
and every night.
Man, to be there for 2 winters, bro,
Yeah,
that's
it's
a good
not
effort,
bad, is
man.
it? It's not bad.
I'm surprised.
Let's see how I can do.
Yeah,
I'll keep you updated.
yeah. But like, you always got to think in the back of your mind that, mate, you can lose it at any time, and
You do.
you start again.
That's the practical way to deal with it.
Yeah,
I never want to be caught with, never want to be caught with my pants down.
yeah,
I'd stay vigilant.
yeah. So you come from England. You've been to Mildura. You've been to Melbourne. Have you travelled anywhere else?
Well, in the year that I was away from Australia, this was, I came back because obviously my father was in bad health and on his way out. But I wandered about France for a bit, just on me ones.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little pilgrimage you can do in France, in the south of France, where they'll give you a place to stay, and you visit each of these little way shrines, and it's organised by the church. It's called like a Compostelle or something. I can't
Okay.
remember the full name, but um this is, you know, like uh, this is organised just by people in the church that just have like a house here and a house there amongst forests, and like in, you know, the like a it'd be like an Airbnb for the pilgrimage basically.
Yeah.
So it's like I just did this little pilgrimage, like sort of unofficially, just like fucking rocked up, and they you know, I had a place to sleep here and there. Other than that, I just had me blanket and me blanket, me backpack, and me Australian dryzer bone. You know, the big leather
Oh yeah.
dryzer bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what kept me warm.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't speak a word of the same language mostly, but you know, when you want to talk to someone, you can usually get the message across somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
How long did you spend over there?
Not long, only like 3 months or something.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you know, it had me books, and you know, just did a lot of walking, a
Yeah.
lot of walking.
Any plans to travel anywhere else in the
No,
future?
I've done my share of walking around,
Yeah.
and now I find I'm moving. I'm moving miles and miles and miles, but on a spiritual level, and I'm physically, my body is a little bit tuckered out, and I'm ready to put down roots,
Yeah.
and heal and put my energy towards something. Uh, you know, by staying still, I'm actually moving leaps and
Got yeah.
bounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like I said, emotionally, maturity, with my maturity as well, and I'm moving at hyper speed. I feel on a spiritual level compared to how I've been moving the last 5 or 6 years, which has been like a snail,
Yeah.
very slow.
Yeah.
But it feels like these days I'm moving at hyper speed, really, like a long way from where I want to be, but a lot better.
Mate, I can see some doors opening for you in the future, and yeah, some
I can
opportunities
feel them. I can feel them. Yeah,
coming, man.
yeah. Um, but I just got that responsibility to stay on, you know, the right path, and not lose all that, uh, not throw it away. You know.
Yeah. So good, man. So you're religious? You consider yourself
Yeah.
Christian?
I was brought up Christian. You know,
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I pray when I want to talk to God,
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit. That's something that the Holy Spirit is something that I feel tangibly. And you know, when I was a kid, I was always like, "Where is this thing? Like, show me some. I want some fucking, I want some
Evidence.
material." Yeah, but these days it's like the evidence is abundant.
Yeah.
When now I've got challenges, this is really the difference between being a child and being a full-grown adult.
Yeah.
Um, uh, those challenges make it quite, you know, it's quite abundant, the
Mm.
help that I'm receiving.
Mm.
It's, you know, it's not so easy to ignore.
Yeah. So what are you grateful for, John?
Um, I'm grateful for the 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 connection that I still feel to my lady who's passed away. How with the putting with it come to terms with my grief, and uh, and feeling like I haven't truly lost her. I lost something that I lost something material and physical that I still uh, yearn for.
Mm.
But I feel grateful that by accepting God's help and the help of the community, that I've got her back in a way. It sounds strange, but in a way, I got her back in a way that I didn't even have her in those last few years, because there was such a rift between us.
Mm.
I also feel grateful for the forgiveness that I receive for even when I completely when I lose myself, I lose my temper. Um, People always still show me a smiling, happy face, no matter what I've said, how outlandish and horrible the stuff I've said has been. I still have people showing me kindness and offering me a hand and inspiring me to do better next time. I'm grateful for all the animals at my cabin, all the animals and insects, even the cockroaches. I don't mind, even the gnarly stuff. Like, is still beautiful when
Yeah.
when it's it's not some baddie coming to get you. It's just a creature. It's a
Mm.
beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Saw this moth uh, um about how big do you think that'd be? Like 25 centimeters.
Yeah.
I saw a fairly big moth perched on the wall at my place as I was waking up today. And the sun doesn't hit my place because I'm on the west side of the hill, so west facing. So the sun doesn't hit my place until about 12 or 1 o'clock. So I got a nice cool morning, and everyone's been baked by that summer Melbourne sun.
Yeah.
I've still got a nice cool morning to wake up at my own leisure.
Well, man, you've got it sorted.
Well, like I said, even if I lose that place or get sussed out, or it falls down or whatever, it's not something I'm ever scared of. It's not something I'm ever worried about because it's already given so much
Yeah.
and it's already helped me so much that you know it's not something I ever worry about.
Yeah.
The only thing that I really worry about is that I'll lose me temper over some silly interaction and take it personally, and then spoil the rest of my week,
Yeah.
which is what I still do. It's not, yeah, I'm getting better at it, but I still make the same mistakes.
We're all getting better at it, man.
Yeah.
You're not alone, bro. Trust me. We're all battling that. What about regrets? Do you have any regrets?
So obviously, there's the part of me that regrets me the breakdown of my relationship with Zev. Now, if I hadn't have been through that, I wouldn't be the man I am today, and I wouldn't have matured. I wouldn't have learned anything. I wouldn't be the man I am today. So it's like a paradox, in the movies when someone tries to change their past, but they end up changing the thing that made them who they are. So that it's a paradox. So if I went back and changed it, I wouldn't be the man I am today.
That's right.
There's a lot I wouldn't have learned. So, and that's what gives me faith.
Yeah.
Actually, ultimately, that knowing that it had to happen that way for me to be who I am now, that gives me a lot of faith.
Yeah.
Because it means it wasn't just some cruel strike of like Zeus fucking destroying my life. It was something that it was actually has only uh, benefited me.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, that's given me a lot of faith. It makes me feel like things are okay.
So it's basically, the things that you think could be a regret are really not regrets, but
And
everything happens for a reason.
it's like anyone, I still feel that hindsight. I still completely go, if I could go back and change it, I would.
Mm.
But truly, if someone gave me the option to change it, I don't think I would.
Yeah.
Because if I did, then, I wouldn't have learned anything. And like I said earlier, I feel closer to her now than I did when, I thought it was all about me. You know,
Yeah. Beautifully said, man.
yeah.
And what would you say your greatest gift or talent is?
Um, it's a difficult one because I know I like making me games, but that's such a hobby, that's such a project. Like say my greatest talent. Hmm. Well, like I said, I'm a genie with the cleaning, but I know despite my anger, I can still remain optimistic. That's something I've never had an issue with, even when I was sleeping in um, a smelly stairwell or lost in cold France, uh, you know, or even being as, um, you know, uh, I always stayed optimistic. Even when I'm angry and raging, there's always a part of me that makes a joke in my head, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that part of me that makes a joke, I hate it sometimes, and I want to knock it out. But then I know, no, that's what saves me. Yeah,
uh, that's good, man.
yeah.
And what means the most to you, John?
Um, could you be a bit more explicit, Justin?
What means the most to you, just in life in general, like friends,
What means the
uh,
most to me?
people that help,
Yeah, yeah.
things that you do,
Okay. Uh,
experiences?
yeah. Um, I'd say feeling like feeling like there's a future, feeling like things are in a sort of a way they've things aren't just going out into some random chaos, but that there's a things are coming together in a sort of like a um, like a that it hasn't been for nothing in a way. Um, Feeling like I'm not just a lonely creature drifting off to the furthest reaches of space, and being more alone and more cold, but that I'm actually come together this this great sort of like meeting where the wool is pulled from my eyes and I see it's not about it's not about getting off my face. It's not about um uh uh you know just getting married and settling down, even though that's a beautiful part of it. It's not about uh anything that I could get or achieve. um it's feeling like, yeah, uh, there's people that would just be happy to hang out with me, uh, no matter what happens in the next 10 years. There's people that are living, uh, you know, for the sake of living and giving and spreading such, spreading such useful knowledge and and like guidance as Anthony gave us today when we were eating food. Like yeah,
That's good, man. That's beautiful. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there, man.
yeah.
Thanks, John. Happy birthday again for Monday,
Oh,
bro.
thank you, bro. Yeah, yeah. I was born at 3 a.m. in the morning. If
Yeah.
that means anything.
Yeah.
And thanks for letting me share a little bit of me story and me life.
Yeah, no, thank
If
you, man.
if you'd have got me talking, I would have just talked. I would have been talking forever. So
I know. No, God bless you, bro. Thank you again.
Nah, thank you, honestly, man.
And
It's nice to have a yarn with you.
yeah, have a wonderful day on Monday, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Thank you,
will.
bro.
I promise.